Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Amy Haynes, and I'm the Marketing Manager for Communication Products here at Macmillan Learning. I am joined today by my colleague, Heather Halter-Kimball, who is our Learning Solutions Specialist, and Heather will be leading the product demo today. This is the final week, the final day, actually, in our April series of brief webinars where we've been highlighting some of our favorite digital resources for communication. Everything that you'll see today is available in LaunchPad, which is our online platform that delivers an ebook, homework, activities, and other learning resources. This week, what we've been doing is each session we've been focusing on one course and looking at various resources and tools in LaunchPad just in that course. So today we are looking at public speaking. So Heather will spend about 15 minutes demoing in LaunchPad, and then we'll open it up for questions, or if you want to see anything again or want to discuss that, that will be time for you at the end. Our goal here is to make this a really brief and useful session for you. So if you're brand new to Macmillan, you've never seen anything in LaunchPad, welcome. If you've used our books but haven't ventured into the digital realm, or if you've used LaunchPad but maybe haven't had time to check out all of the features, we really hope that there's something here for everybody today. And before I pass things over to Heather, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items for using this GoToWebinar platform. So this is your attendee control panel. You should see it floating around somewhere in the top right of your computer desktop. By default, you've been connected via audio, your computer speaker. So if you can hear us, you should be all set. But of course, if you would prefer to call in on your phone, you just click this button right here where it says phone call, and a little window will pop up with the phone number that you can dial. You may also notice that you're muted. This is just an automatic setting to cut down on background noise, but we will easily unmute you when it comes time for questions. Speaking of questions, there are a couple of ways that you can engage with us during this webinar. You can use the raise hand feature, which is this little hand icon. It lives sort of in the top left of that control panel. If you click that, it signals to me and I can unmute you if you need to say something or ask a question. And then at any time, you can use the questions box here. It's on the lower half of your control panel. You type in your question, you hit the send button, that will come to me, and I will either type an answer back to you or maybe hold on to the question if it makes sense to ask in the larger group. And with that, I will go ahead and pass things over to Heather.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amy. Oh, and I think are you seeing my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Didn't give me the little pop-up it usually does, so I want to make sure we're good. Okay, great. Well, again, thank you to everybody for coming today. We really appreciate your time and hope that you'll find it be well spent. Again, my name is Heather Halter-Kimball, and I'm your Learning Solutions Specialist for Communication with Macmillan Learning, which means that I provide training and pedagogical support for instructors using or potentially using our LaunchPad products. And we'll cover this more at the end, but worth noting that if you like what you see here and you want a little help getting your course set up, or maybe you want to see a little bit more, I'm happy to meet one-on-one with you as well. But before we start, I wanted to give a little bit of my background and how I kind of ended up here. Before coming to Macmillan, I started off with a master's in communication from University of Central Florida. I did my thesis actually there on using social media in the classroom. So you can see that this idea of using technology while teaching is something that's been a passion of mine for a really long time. I actually also taught public speaking myself for 5 years in a variety of formats, face-to-face, online, hybrid. Those of you teaching online, I know your struggles. And most recently, I was the course director for public speaking at Full Sail University, where I led my department's implementation of speech class, which was the predecessor of LaunchPad. And now my job is to help instructors use this technology that I find so valuable. So it's a pretty great gig. What I want to talk about today, though, specifically, are going to be LaunchPad features that we developed especially for the public speaking course. And these can all be found within the LaunchPads for a pocket guide to public speaking, Speechcraft, a speaker's guidebook, and Speak Up, which is going to be available in a new edition for your spring 2020 classes. We're going to spend some time looking at video resources, things we can do to help your students with outlining, and our PRCA and PRPSA self-assessments. Let me go ahead and exit out of my slides and jump on into LaunchPad. And again, we're throwing around this LaunchPad word. Basically, LaunchPad is where we house all of our resources that supplement our textbooks. So even though I'm in the LaunchPad for Pocket Guide to Public Speaking right now, it will be the same functionality for any of our books that you're using. It's just, of course, each book, each text has its own custom tailored content. I do want to start off with a quick overview just for those of you who may be completely brand new to this. I've already done some setup work in here, as you can see, my little assignments heading. But in general, everything in LaunchPad is divided up by chapter. And then we do have some additional resources down at the bottom of the table of contents. But any chapter that you'd like to explore what we have, simply click on the chapter name. It expands open, and then you can see everything we have. If there's anything you actually want to check out yourself, simply click on the activity, open it up, and in this case, you'll see our video that we have here, and we'll talk about all of our video options in a bit. To get back to that main page, you'll click Home. And if you decide that this claims video is something that you want your students to watch, simply click on this blue Assign button that shows up over on the right-hand side of the page. Now, technically, all these videos and activities are available to your students without you doing anything. But if you want this to be a graded homework activity, all you have to do is select a due date, pick a point value, and then click Assign. And then that activity, I should say that chapter, will jump to the top of the table of contents under the assignment heading. And you'll notice that we now have this blue to do button next to the claims video. And so that's how your students know what work they need to complete for homework. Also worth noting that each chapter is going to have the same general types of activities in it. We do have a full ebook built into all of our LaunchPads for public speaking. And there's also a downloadable offline ebook. So we give your students options for reading both through LaunchPad while they're connected to the internet, or they can download the offline book. That way they're, if they're on the bus or the train or something, somewhere without internet access. And it also is mobile friendly as well, so they could read on their phone or their tablet. Chapters are also going to have pre-made chapter quizzes. We also have a test bank built in here, so you can either edit our existing quizzes or build your own from scratch if you'd like. Our chapters, this varies a little bit from book to book how it's organized, but all 4 of our titles do have Learning Curve, which is our adaptive quizzing program. And we covered this in one of our earlier webinars, hands down one of our most popular features. And lastly, each chapter will also have instructor options. So we have pre-made lecture slides you can use in your class, an instructor resource manual where you can get sample activities and discussion questions. And we also have sample slides you can use with iClicker as well if you like using student response programs in your class. Now, though, let's go ahead and take a look at everything that's in here specifically designed for the public speaking course. And I like to start off by showing something that personally I used to give to all of my students, though it was before it lived in this fun, fancy way of doing it. That is the personal report of communication apprehension and the personal report of public speaking anxiety. If you're not familiar with these, they were developed by James McCroskey back in the early 80s, and they were shown to be a very extremely reliable measure of how much communication anxiety or apprehension a student may have. Of course, public speaking looks specifically at public speaking issues. Students rate their agreement with these various statements. For example, while preparing for giving a speech, I feel tense and nervous. And so, it looks at things pre-speech, just before the speech, post-speech, during the speech, and it helps students really pinpoint specifically what it is about the speech presentation process that they get the most nervous about. They answer their agreement with all these statements, and it will do the math for them and tell them what their results mean. The personal report of communication apprehension looks at more communication as a whole, and it's going to pinpoint if students have a particular fear of maybe group, public speaking, interpersonal, whatever it may be. So we have both of these available to you. You can use both of them, just one of them, none of them, honestly, but I personally think it's a really good idea to give at least at the start of the semester so that you can identify maybe some students who might need a little bit extra help feeling comfortable in this class. And also worth noting that you can create copies of activities as well. So if you want to set this up as kind of a pre and post test, you can certainly do that. So, maybe we call this post test. And then we've now got 2 copies. And of course, I would then rename this pre-test, take out the copy, but I was just doing this real quickly. So lots of good options there. The next thing I want to take a look at are going to be our speech outlining materials. Outlining is always really tricky to teach students. They never quite 100% grasp the concept, I feel. So what we've done in our speech outlining materials folder is we provide students with a speech outlining guide. And this just kind of starts off, it explains kind of the relevance and why outlines are important. And then we walk them through each of the steps of working on an outline as well. We give them advice. We explain the different types of speeches, organizational patterns. We walk them through audience analysis activities, which of course is extremely helpful. And then our other option that we have here is our speech outlining template, which is actually a Word document that is pre-formatted in correct outlining procedure. And then we give students little prompts so that they know what should go in what particular part. For example, we lay out all 5 steps of the introduction and give them a little information on what should be there. And then, of course, all the supporting details, conclusion, and again, a little audience analysis as well. And then, of course, because this is a Word document, students can easily print this out and bring it into class on speech day or email it to you or, submit it however you like taking documents electronically. We've actually got a Dropbox option within LaunchPad as well that students could submit to. My personal favorite feature that we have in here, though, that's great for students is going to be our video options, and we've got a lot of them. I'm going to jump into our informative speaking chapter here because we've got a good representation in here. LaunchPad does have several full-length sample student speeches built right on in. Really great quality. We record these ourselves, so they look really nice and neat. They have closed captioning and downloadable transcripts as well. But we go one step further beyond just giving you a sample speech. We then take those speeches and cut them down into smaller chunks. So for example, here's that same speech, but we just show the part where she cites a source effectively. You can see it's 25 seconds, so it's a really short clip. And what's nice about that is then you could assign a bunch of these. And some videos have, I should say, some topics have multiple videos. So your students can see a lot of different ways of doing something effectively in a speech. But one thing that I've actually found to be especially helpful are going to be our videos that are labeled needs improvement. So these are the examples of what not to do in a speech. Here in this case, this student cites a source, but he doesn't establish the credibility. And so we see not only his source lacking that good information, but also you can kind of see the effect on the audience of, you know, oh, well, we don't really take that seriously if we don't know if that's a legitimate source or not. And we do have everything we showed there were just sample videos, but we do also have what we call video activities, which, as the name suggests, has a video clip and then multiple choice questions associated with it. So it'll look something like this. We'll see a video, and then we have questions associated with it as well. And this is actually a nice transition into something that, while our public speaking texts do have a lot of things in common, they do all also have their own individual features depending on, you know, the specific flavor of the book. So what I'm looking at right now is a feature that's available in both Pocket Guide to Public Speaking and a Speaker's Guidebook. And these are what we call our part introductory videos, where we look at kind of the general concepts in action. For example, let me back up here. Part 7 of our book looks at types of speeches. And so here, rather than showing just a speech, because we've already got a lot of speech videos, we show just kind of specific ways that persuasion can be really powerful. For some of our other books, Speak Up includes speech choices, which follows 2 students through the speech prep process. And naturally, one student follows all the directions to the T. Another student slacks off, puts everything off to the last minute. And then we work with them through each of those steps, and then we see their final product. And naturally, the one student has a great speech, the other one falls kind of flat. And in Speechcraft, we extend this activity into our digital dives, which were written by the author himself, Josh Gunn. And it just allows students to really think more critically about chapter content and how it can apply to their lives, not just in the public speaking course, but beyond that as well. The last thing that I want to show you in here is something that's not pre-built, but it can be amazingly helpful for you and your students, and that's going to be our video assessment powered by GoReact. Again, we covered this in one of our earlier webinars. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it today, but I do just want to show you a quick little screenshot that I took to show what this looks like. Basically, students can submit their video to LaunchPad either through uploading a recording directly from their laptop using a webcam, through our app, and then the video lives in LaunchPad, and you can come in here and do time-based commenting and marker grading. You can see that these comments here are linked to a specific point in the video. So when we reach that point, the comment will show up here in the middle of the screen, and of course it will highlight over here as well. And students can see all their feedback down in this little chart. Anywhere there's a gray hash means there's a comment, and then these colored dots correspond back to our marker set, which are totally customizable, and they're meant to be used as a really easy way to just leave any sort of recurring comment that you may have. For example, eye contact is good, vocal variety is good. One I always really like is ums. You know, it helps students really identify those non-fluencies, and there's a rubric that you can use to grade as well. This feature can be really handy for an online class, but we also have our live event feature, which allows you to live stream record videos in class while using this same time-based commenting. And there's also the comment only feature where you as the instructor add a video to LaunchPad and your students add comments, and you can build kind of a video discussion board that way. So hopefully, in our few minutes we had together today, you've seen what a great asset LaunchPad can be for your public speaking course. We've got the PRCA and PRPSA outlining materials, video activities, and video assessment. And don't forget also pre-built chapter quizzes, learning curve adaptive quizzing, and an ebook that's available both online and is downloadable. I'm happy to meet with you guys one-on-one if you need a little help getting set up or you want to see more about what we've talked about today. But before we get into how you can do that, I will pass it back to Amy, who will open it up for some Q&A.
Thanks, Heather. So I've unmuted the line. If anybody has a question or comment, wants to take a look at something that Heather showed, just go ahead and speak up. I did have a couple of questions come into the question box. I can share those. Heather, the first one is about the mobile app. When you were talking about submitting video, you mentioned the mobile app, and this person would like to know if that is for instructors to manage the course or if it's just for, who it's for.
Yeah, so the app, its beauty is in its simplicity. We don't want it to do too much. Literally all the app is for is it's completely student facing, and they just use it to record their speeches, to have it automatically added to the LaunchPad video assessment that you've set up in there. So we keep it easy so it can be pretty foolproof. There's nothing that an instructor needs to do with the app itself. You do, of course, need to set up the video assessment in LaunchPad, but again, that's all in LaunchPad, completely separate from the app.
Okay. And then the other question I had was that came in was about how this works with Canvas, if you assign these things.
Yeah, so at many schools, we offer what's called deep integration with both, I should say, with Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, and Moodle as well. And what happens is basically our content lives right alongside your content. As the instructor, you would first go into LaunchPad, select any of the assignments you want them to complete. Then you would set up a link to that activity in your case, Canvas course. And again, it lives right along anything else you have them do in there. They'll see a link to, let's say it's the video activity for part 7. They click on that link. It takes the students seamlessly into the activity, and then any grade that the student gets on the activity automatically tracks back into your Canvas gradebook. So it's a smooth, easy experience for your students. And then, of course, as the instructor, it's nice and compact and everything all in one place for you as well.
Okay. And we've got a couple more about further questions about the video assessment. The first one is, have there been any design improvements to the group assignment portion of the video assignment feature?
So not just yet, but it is in the works. I wish I had more detail to give you there, but that's kind of all I can say. We're hoping that, I don't want to promise anything, but like I said, they are working on it right now, and I would love to say that by fall we're going to have some better group functionality for you. Okay. We were actually,
and I know that
Amy and I were on a call earlier today saying, hey, I think we're supposed to be finding out about this stuff. So
yeah, because that's definitely something that's come up. That's been really strong feedback from the market. So it's on the list for sure.
Yeah,
and then
we're pushing hard for you guys.
Okay. And then the other one is it possible to test the video capture tool before the semester begins?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I personally, I'd recommend setting up some time with me just to make sure that, everything's set up as it is, set up properly, I should say. And then you can actually enroll into your LaunchPad course as a sample student using what's called our temporary access option and a personal email address. And so that way you could actually go in and, pretend to be a student, upload your own video, or whatever it may be. And additionally, we're working on some documentation right now for an optional kind of start of the semester activity that will have each student actually go in and test it out themselves as well. So a couple options that way to make sure that you're feeling comfortable with it.
Okay. All right, I think that is all we have for questions. Thank you for those of you who submitted questions. So we will just wrap it up here. I am going to get the line back. So as Heather mentioned, she mentioned a couple of times setting up time with her. This is how you can do that. This first web URL here, the meetme.so/Heather Kimball, will take you to an online calendar, and you just select a day and time that works for you, and you'll set up a meeting with Heather. And like she said, she can kind of walk you through some functionality if you're curious about it. She can make sure that you're set up to do that test activity if you'd like to, or anything else you need, and certainly anything beyond public speaking as well. Any of our communication products, if you're curious about what LaunchPad resources there are, she can show you that. I would highly recommend taking advantage of Heather. She is a wonderful resource. And then if you want to browse our catalog, you can go to macmillanlearning.com/communication, where you will find all of our communication products organized by course. If you would like to learn more about LaunchPad on your own, you can go to launchpadworks.com. And this is a site where you will find some demo videos and case studies. You just sort of browse those resources at your convenience. And then for anything else, please feel free to shoot me an email. My address is here at the bottom, amy.haynes@macmillan.com. If you need to know who your rep is, if you need a desk copy or access, if you've got a question that didn't come up today, anything else you're curious about, I can answer your question or certainly point you in the right direction. And then I just wanted to, as I said, this is the last day, so we don't have any more webinars that are coming up, but this next slide is just a list of the topics that we have been covering. And again, I put my email here again. If you attended any of these or if you register for any, you should have received automatically a link to watch the recording of that session. But if you didn't and you're interested in any of these topics, I would be happy to send you the link to those recordings. They are structured the same way, no more than about 30 minutes. And the first one was the adaptive quizzing that Heather mentioned, Learning Curve, which is a really great tool that we certainly hear the most about, that people really get a lot of use out of that. The Go React video assessment, we did a webinar just about that, not just in public speaking, but how that video assessment program can be used across courses. We did some sessions on building your own quizzes and tests in LaunchPad. And then this week, we've been doing course-specific sessions. So Math Comm, Interpersonal, Human Comm, and of course today, public speaking. So we do have all of these recorded. Shoot me an email if you would like links to any of those, and if you need anything else. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Have a great weekend.